welcome back to HMS Odyssey Presents. We are still going into it with Meg Zeek. She is going through human design, and today she's going to run through the not self and your theme. And we're also going to talk about your channels and your gates. So I hope you enjoy, and if you do, hit the like, drop a comment, and subscribe. Thanks.
The next thing I want to talk about is your not self. And we actually talked about this a little bit, whenever we talked last.
So this right here?
Yeah, the not self. So This is the feeling that you get when you're not in your highest alignment. And obviously for you, it's frustration. Mm-hmm. So when that frustration shows up for you, this is again a mind twister, right? But when it shows up for you, you get to say, okay, that must mean that I'm out of alignment somewhere. So where is the root of this frustration coming from? And sometimes you can't go back and fix that, right? All you can do is make a new choice. So with that frustration, when those feelings come up, the digging is the work there, right? So yeah. I don't know if you want to share anything that's just really small that you've been frustrated by, and we can dig. And if you don't, we don't have to.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's really good because, obviously we all get frustrated when we can't do something to its own capacity, right? Mm-hmm. But I've gotten better at when I cannot figure something out, mm-hmm. how can I reframe it and look at it a different way? But one thing that I've always noticed is that lines, I get very frustrated in lines. So whether it be, standing at the grocery store and there's 10 people in line, or whether it's sitting in traffic and, the light turns green and the first person, you're in the turn lane, the first person sits there for 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds. And then you're like honk, and then it turns yellow and they race through it. And I find myself getting very frustrated at stuff like that.
I wonder why that is. Why do you feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, that waiting is maybe a negative thing for you?
I guess, Dorothy asked me this a while ago, and one of the only things I could think of is I think that it's a waste of time. So, if I'm sitting in traffic, could I have done this earlier in the day to avoid the traffic? If I'm standing in a line, is there a better time I could have came to not waste so much time?
Okay,
I could be doing something more productive elsewhere instead of just standing and waiting. I mean, I've gotten, since I've been an entrepreneur, I've gotten better at establishing when I need to go and do things. So, I've had to go to the DMV, and you go at Tuesday morning at, 10:15 in the morning, there's no one there.
Right.
So I'm like, all right, there's a window. I've started to learn the windows of when I need to go so I can get in, get done, come back and get on with what I was doing. So I've been trying to find solutions around that. But if I get caught in there, I mean, there's been times where I'll walk up to a line and, let's just say it's fast food and there's 12 people in line, and I'll walk up and I'll be like, it's not worth it. And I'll just leave.
I cannot say that I haven't done the same thing. Here's a journal prompt for you to look into for yourself.
Okay. Yeah.
Is really what is your core belief about time?
Okay.
Number one. So, thinking about as a child, what were time management skills like with your parents? What did you learn about being timely or being productive? And you don't have to write all this down. It's just helping you kind of remember what this all means. And the next question that you could also mull over is asking yourself, what do I believe about myself if I have to wait? There's a core belief there about, there's something about yourself in it. You know, and I'm just going to give examples. And if something resonates and we want to talk about it, fantastic. But do I believe that I shouldn't have to wait for things? Like, should I get instant gratification? Is that a belief I have? Or even, trying to put this into words. Do I believe that I have to do something in order for me to make use of time? Like, do I always have to be productive? Is that a core belief? So digging into those a little bit.
Yeah, no, the first one, the instant gratification, I don't feel that.
I didn't think so.
The second one, though, it feels more in alignment with me. You know, I do feel like I have to be productive quite often. Like, it's funny. So when I got to boot camp for the Marine Corps, the first week, you pretty much, I mean, you're still a civilian, you know, the first week is the worst week of boot camp. I swear. All you do is stand in lines for everything. So you stand in line for the dentist, you stand in line for the doctors, you stand in line for your shots, you stand in line to get your shoes, your clothes, your gun, everything. You stand in just massive heaping amounts of lines. And one thing that, like, you know, and I was like, I hate this. Like, I hate standing in lines, you know, which most of the rest of the boot camp, you're always moving, you're always doing something, you're always training, doing push-ups, you know, marching, you're always doing something. So that was like painful. And one thing it was a unique experience because I had nothing. There was no cell phone to look at. You didn't have your wallet, you didn't have your keys, you didn't have, you know, pretty much anything. You just had your clothes and then the dude who was, you know, 4 inches in front of you. So, and then I was like, I am getting paid for this. Like, this is my job right now, is to just stand in this line. Like, that's all I need to do is just stand. So like, I kind of found a way around boot camp, and I actually relaxed as far as like this, I need to get things done mentality when I got to boot camp because of that experience. And it's funny that you said that because I remember that distinctly.
Huh. You retrained yourself.
Yeah, only during boot camp when I got back out.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, well, you know, once I got out, man, once I got out of that, when we went to combat training, they let you have your phones back and all this other stuff. So it's kind of like back to this constant, you know, upload, download lifestyle. So
I would really want to dig in to what that core belief is about the need to be productive or the need to accomplish. What does that mean to you? Who taught you? That's the question. Who taught you that you had to be productive?
It's a good question. Because I feel like that might stem from many different people in different categories, right?
Yeah.
You know, I feel like also that could be like a social conditioning.
Yes.
Right?
It can come from many places. Is there one person or experience that sticks out to you?
Well, growing up, I always had to maintain the AB average. If I didn't, I was grounded. And then for everything that I wanted to do, there was always something else I needed to do in its way, right? So my mom, oh yeah, if you're gonna go do whatever with your friends, then you need to read X pages of a book or etc.
Okay.
So, obviously our brains distort things. I might not be remembering that correctly, but that's how I feel like it's processed. So,
sure.
I was always trying to keep myself stimulated, I guess would be the correct word.
Oh, okay. So even if it wasn't, well, and it was kind of put on you to your remembering, right? You still took almost the initiative, if I'm understanding correctly, to keep yourself stimulated. Is that right?
Yeah, I guess also there's been points in my life where I couldn't do anything, right? So my accident, I was in a hospital bed for 3.5, 4 months, something like that. So like I couldn't do anything. Right. So there's like points where I feel like if I get to a point where I am relaxed and not doing anything, it's like I just want to stay there.
So when you were in the hospital, you kind of felt like you wanted to stay there? Like it was almost nice to have a break? Is that, no?
Yeah, a little bit, okay. It's like trying to start a car in the cold, right? You're like, I need to get up and do something now. And you're like, you just like, you go into that lazy state and then you just don't want to come out of it. So, and then when I'm in that active state and I'm always wanting to do something, I fear maybe if I leave it and go to the resting state, I might not be able to get back out for a while.
That's in your chart.
That makes sense.
That's pretty cool. Okay, so kind of dug into that, and that's actually part of you. So, wow. The meaning though.
Should we pull it up or? Okay.
We can, yeah. It's one of your channels.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to have reference for it so we could see what you're talking about here.
So it's the 3457 channel.
Okay. So 34 is 34.
It's your
34
and your sacral.
Okay.
So your spleen, and this is kind of jumping ahead, so we might kind of skip over this part when we get there. Okay. Your spleen is like your fear seed. Okay. I'm so glad you mentioned the word fear. The sacral obviously is your consistent energy, your workforce energy. So you have a fear of not staying energetic, not working. This 3457 is called the power channel, and it's about your intuitive awareness. It's about your instincts. It's also about survival. So through your own conditioning, you have been taught that in order to succeed, or in order to survive, right, is the word that we use there, that you have to perform X, Y, and Z tasks. Now, in your actual chart, like this channel is meant to bring you awareness so that you can follow your instincts, so that you can keep yourself in safety. Okay, so all this coming together, your your conditioned, your perceived safety has been that you have to perform work, right? In order to accomplish, receive, insert your choice of word there.
Okay.
And is that the belief you want to carry forward?
I mean, I'd like to say no.
Okay. So with that channel, if we're really thinking survival, what kinds of things do you have to do to survive?
Well, I guess survival it could be kind of a relative term because, you know, everybody's lifestyle is different. So what someone, you know, you probably ask some younger generation people and they say they can't survive without their phone.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what do I really need? I just need my bills to be paid, food on the table, water, clean water, etc., clothing. But if we're talking about a lifestyle that I've sustained, that'd be a different story.
Fair enough. So I want to offer you something. With the spleen being your fear seed and the sacral being your energy, and you're a spiritual person, so you can kind of understand this aspect of manifestation. I will often tell people with a defined spleen that they can use it almost in a backwards way for their manifestations. Like, I'm afraid of not having, right? Which is, we're told the opposite, right? Like you can't use the word not. So you do have a fear, and it's inside of you and conditioned, right? Double whammy, okay? That you have to perform work in order to survive. Now, if we flip-flop that, we can say, I'm afraid of working too hard to not get the things I want. So what that can do is allow you to start reframing it, reframe that working does not equal money. And especially as an entrepreneur, you're starting to see that probably, right? Working doesn't equal money. Energy equals money, right? Or energy equals success, whatever it is. Energy equals survival. So do you see how, like, there's kind of that flow of using, this is in your chart and old school. So giving a real example, an old school person would say, well, it's in your chart, so you always have to work so that you don't become afraid. We can turn that. You know that you don't have to constantly work. You're seeing that now.
Mm-hmm.
In order to survive, in order to succeed. So we're reframing, rebuilding that. It still exists in you.
Yeah.
And you get to choose how it manifests itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, it does. That's interesting point and interesting way to look at it. And, like, you know, reading through, I see that at least the human design book that I have, you know, everything's by the book, but everything seems framed very negatively in the books.
Yeah.
Right? It's like everything comes from kind of a scarcity standpoint. So the fact that, like, you can flip it, and obviously, like, context can kind of be interpreted in different ways.
Right.
You're gonna have to do a little bit of that interpretation and find your own like meaning. But like the fact that you give like good guidance and how to reframe it for yourself.
I always recommend for people not to do their own research if they can help it before getting some sort of reading, hopefully from somebody that they're aligned with. Because if you just read the straight cold facts, it does feel really limiting. I mean, I felt limited when I first learned about my design, and I said, no, that is not going to limit me. That is going to expand me.